Be Relinquished. A talk by Darfrey John, October the 30th, 1985. Master John. Your involvement in the spiritual process will move attention through stages, with the result that at some point it will be natural for you to sit and observe subtle phenomena and pass beyond them, just as at the present time it is gross phenomena that you more naturally observe and pass beyond. Moving beyond gross phenomena characterizes your practice in early stages, but what you realize in meditation is the same as that which may be realized in the higher stages. It is simply that you realize it in the context of the observation and transcendence of real or gross personality phenomena. What difference does it make whether you pass through gross phenomena or subtle phenomena to realize the same condition with a capital C? There is no difference. When it is more natural for meditation to take place in the context of subtle phenomena or higher stage phenomena, then that will be the kind of meditation you will be obliged to realize. It will come quite naturally as a result of your having fulfilled your present stage of practice, just as changes in your psychophysical life in the frontal personality will occur as a result of your spiritual practice. Your meditation will be evidenced in transformations of your ordinary life, not vice versa. You will not make fundamental changes in your ordinary psychophysical life until you enter into the spiritual process. Therefore, changes in the frontal life are not proposed to you idealistically. You are not called to perfect your frontal life on the basis of an ideal. Rather, on the basis of hearing and seeing, you enter into the spiritual process. You must give yourself up to that completely and allow it to show evidence in and out of meditation. Allow transformations to occur on the basis of your spiritual life rather than struggle to make changes on an idealistic basis. Thus, the practice at the early stages is the real spiritual process. The practice at the early stages is the real spiritual process. From beginning to end, it is a matter of divine communion. Ultimately, and quite naturally, you will realize a condition in meditation that transcends the body-mind, transcends conditional existence, in other words. You will realize divine communion. You will not realize anything other than that when you pass through and beyond subtle phenomena, and therefore there is nothing preferable about the higher stages. What you must realize is that which is to be realized, and you must realize it presently in the context of whatever is arising. If gross phenomena are arising, then you must realize the divine presently in that context. If subtle phenomena arise, then you must include that in your meditation. That is the logic that produces the 7 stages. The way is not progressive God realization. It is God realization from the beginning. However, the practice of the process of God realization in the context of conditional existence naturally, inevitably, and progressively develops the signs of the 7 stages. What, then, are you called to realize in the early stage when you pass through and beyond the frontal knots? You are called to realize the divine, the spiritual, transcendental, and divine condition. You are called to realize that which transcends pain, fear, attachment, sorrow, sex, pleasure, frustration, anger, unlove, suppression of being, suppression of fullness of bliss, chaos of life, doubt and confusion. You must pass through and beyond those literal, ordinary human conditions. You are not called to bypass them by somehow or other raising your attention up the spine and into subtle phenomena, or by imagining a visionary reality that is an alternative to gross existence. Rather, you are called to participate directly as what you appear to be in the living, all-pervading, absolute divine condition. All you need overcome at the early stages are the gross phenomena. You need not worry about subtle phenomena. Be grateful. Laughter. When subtle phenomena actually begin in your case, you will have more complex meditation, more responsibility. Why look for these signs as if there was some advantage in their appearance, as if those objects were superior, as if you will not be spiritual until they arise? You must transcend yourself. Self-transcendence is not a matter of attaining superior objects of attention or of self-fulfillment. Self-transcendence occurs in the context of what presently arises without committing the aggressive act of dissociation from what is presently arising. Why practice another teaching? That is what you are doing if you think your practice of meditation is to avoid the phenomena of the frontal personality and have spinal or brain core visions and see subtle things. All of that is really a sign of your egoic unwillingness to pass through the trial of self-transcendence. There is nothing superior about subtle objects. They will occur naturally, eventually. What is superior is actual self-transcendence, the transcendence of that which arises in your experience, just that, without having to find an alternative experience. Whatever is arising is the context of your ordeal. Since the phenomena of the frontal personality are the context of your experience, you are quite naturally an early practitioner. This being the case, why do I complain that there are not more people moving into the higher stages? It is because you are not really doing the yoga of early stages. You are fans of spiritual life, and you tend to think of spiritual life in terms of subtle phenomena, inwardness, states dissociated from the body, and so on. You tend not to really practice the yoga of self-understanding and self-transcendence in divine communion. You idealize meditation in terms of subtler objects, and you do not really want to confront and deal with the grosser ones. Likewise, you tend not to practice self-transcendence in life. You use up life indulging the ego, not truly transcending it, not showing the evidence of true meditation because you do not practice true meditation nearly as much as you should. Our practice is not about dissociating from the frontal personality in order to become subtle, in order to enter into an alternative experience. Experiences, whatever form they may take, are not the goal of, nor are they an impediment to, God communion. Any object can be an impediment if you do not practice the way. No object is an impediment if you do practice the way. What I am complaining about, the basis of my urgency with you, is your being fans of spiritual life, not truly practicing the yoga you are already given. In fact, if you had been practicing it all these years, and you have had this practice for years, you would be more advanced in your practice as a natural matter of course. Therefore, what I am really complaining about is that you are not truly practicing the stage you are in. Why do I complain when you are taking a long time being an FCC2 practitioner? Not because you are an FCC2 practitioner, but because you are not really an FCC2 practitioner. You are not really getting down to that practice. If you were, it would not take you nearly as long as it has already taken you. You think that to be spiritual, you must somehow do spinal yoga and get up into the brain core. And that is not true. That is one of the stages of practice, not a superior one, and not one that you can willfully decide to do because it sounds like a good idea. You cannot truly practice that because it is not your experience. You cannot practice it in any case because you have not fulfilled the lower stages. You have not passed beyond the egoity of the lower stages of life. Therefore, it makes no difference if you do see a vision. It does not change anything. You must still deal with the egoic obstruction in the frontal line. If you did that and no subtle phenomena arose, you would live the life of samadhi, because there would be no objective form, no conditional state limiting your realization of God. Subtle phenomena arise quite naturally as soon as the true samadhi in the frontal personality begins to steady itself. You naturally move into the next stage, as I have indicated. The stages unfold naturally. They are not an idealistic performance, nor are they something that you can generate by an act of will. You simply practice the self-transcendence way of God communion in the context of what arises. You do not make gestures to dissociate from what arises, nor do you simply make the common egoic gesture of identifying with what arises or indulging yourself in what arises. Self-understanding or hearing and seeing or divine communion through baptism or spirit reception make it unnecessary for you either to associate from, identify with, or exploit conditions. All you need do in meditation is sit or abide in the midst of whatever conditions are naturally arising for you. You need not struggle to have other conditions arise. Observe and feel beyond what arises by granting attention to the divine person, to the living current of the divine. As you grant attention to the divine, various phenomena will arise quite naturally. The products of the self-contraction will appear. Whatever form the self-contraction takes for you is a sign of what your stage of life and stage of practice is. Those phenomena are the circumstance in which to meditate, and the circumstance in which to practice divine communion in daily life outside of meditation. In this frontal meditation, you must go beyond fear. You must go beyond sorrow and attachment. You must go beyond the motivation to indulge the body in various pleasures. You must go beyond frustration, and you must go beyond the angry reaction to frustration. All these things are quite natural to you. You experience them in daily life. They come up also when you are sitting in meditation. However, these emotions are not the meditation. They are the natural arising objects that tend to claim attention, but you are free to pass beyond them because you are intimately aware of the divine presence. Therefore, you can grant attention to the divine presence. If you feel into the divine presence, these phenomena cease. They lose their seed. You have deflected the motion. You have passed into another motion. That reactive motion becomes obsolete by you, by not granting attention to it in the usual way. By granting attention to the divine condition, these conditional motions lose their seed, their motive. They fall away in the fullness of divine communion. In the frontal yoga, the phenomena that dissolve tend to do so progressively from the top of the body toward the base. One by one, all the various conditions, from the more superficial ones higher in the body to the more deeply rooted ones lower in the body, are transcended. You transcend the more superficial phenomena first. The busy, doubting mind relaxes. The chaotic or suppressed nature of the life force moving through the throat relaxes. More fullness comes. The basic cramp of unlove and emotional dis-ease relaxes. Over time, you will progressively and more fully and deeply transcend the base emotions, the base reactivity of anger, sorrow and fear. If you do the yoga of frontal personality, you will transcend those reactive states and enter into the fullness of divine communion, utterly free of fear, sorrow and anger, not experiencing another psychophysical state, but transcending psychophysical states in direct communion with that which is, the one who is. If you practice this from day to day, over time, the fullness of the current will eventually pass through the frontal personality. The chronic evidence of these contractions will relax, be more easily and naturally dealt with. The frontal personality will become more and more spiritualized by this contemplation. Then the current is free to move more fully by turning about in the base and moving up the spinal line and on through the total course I have described to you. As chronic obstructions that are more superficial in the line of the current are stably fundamentally overcome, the current moves further. Other objects or contractions must be transcended in basically the same fashion until the whole line of the current is fundamentally liberated from the disease of self. That is enlightenment in the fullest sense. Even in the seventh stage of life, all the natural evidence of conditional existence arises, but it is thoroughly recognized. There is no effective contraction. It is all recognizable. Life becomes a creative play, one with the divine. Until then, there are various knots, various signs of being a conditional being, knots in the current, from the right side of the heart up, and down and up through this circle or arrow in the structure of conditional being. You do not fulfill the process completely until there is complete transcendence. Conditions will continue to arise. Progressively, you will see more and more and will be obliged to transcend more and more. In any moment, however, you do not have to transcend any more than what arises. Therefore, divine realization in the fullest sense is possible in any moment or at any stage of life. Thus, any practicing devotee, having entered at least into the FCC2 stage, may enter fully into divine communion, transcending conditional limitation through the right practice of this discipline. I am responsible for this consideration, and you are responsible for the practice of it. Is what I just described to you what you are doing when you sit in meditation? Or are you doing something else, or wishing you could do something else? What are you doing? Devotee. Often meditation is as you described, but other times what arises is very distracting. Master Da. It is always distracting, and you always become distracted. It is a matter of how much time you spend being distracted. I know you won't like me commenting, but Ali Da should be our distraction. Always being distracted. Whatever arises, be distracted. Fall in love. Love communion. That's all it is. It's all the way of heart is about. Yes, I'm not FCC2 level, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. If I'm wrong, then tell me. The practice is being distracted by the presence of the spiritual master, no matter what's arising right now. So then there's continuous satsang, continuous liberation. Thank you, Lord. There is more. I'll record that another time.